some mistakes, didn't like his build, so he wanted to give another try this weekend, and he's 2-0 so far. He's already defeated one Rug Delver player, round 1.
And we got another one this round.
And you have another one here in Jeff Rasmussen on the right.
It is, looks like a pretty standard Rug Delver build. The only thing that I see that is a little abnormal is he's playing 2 Spell Snare, where normally there's not quite enough slots for that. But
Spell Snare check in Jonathan's deck. Wait for it. Wait for it. 0.
yeah, it's going to be, you know, a card to shuffle away with a Brainstorm or pitch to a Force of Will, and then probably delegate it to the sideboard after after game 1.
If you guys have never seen the 12 post deck before, the object of this deck is to find a cloud post, copy it with Vesuva. You can also crop rotation for them. And in combination with Candelabra of Tawnos, create a large amount of mana to be able to cast these Eldrazi's, or cheat a Primeval Titan into play. And Primeval Titan, of course, is going to search for more versions of Cloud Post. You also have Glimmer Post as well to up the Locust count. So the
and
goal,
gain some life.
Yeah, and gain some life. First and foremost, you just want to find a Cloud Post to get things online. The scary thing for Jonathan here is that he's playing against a deck that does have 4 copies of Wasteland.
Yep, and a bunch of cheap counter magic for things like Expedition Map and Sensu's Divining Top. It's going to be a lot harder on the draw as well, because the Rug Delver deck does have a lot of pressure, a lot of, you know, it's an aggro control deck. You just play a threat and then hold up counter magic and wastelands, and that's the whole game. That's the whole game plan. You know, you're not trying to reach an end game point where you're doing something fancy. They just die.
Yeah, it's fairly simple. You know, as you said, play a cheap threat, manipulate your hand, find some counter magic, maybe a couple of those lightning bolts, and get the game over with. As you do see, Jeff does have a Nimble Mongoose here to start this game. He's also playing a Brainstorm here, has a Volcanic Island, so does not have anything to shuffle away with that Brainstorm, which I'm sure you'll elaborate on momentarily, as John does draw an Oblivion Stone for the turn. You see a Vesuva, but most importantly here right now, AJ, as you see Vesuva copy Cloud Post, is that there's no Wasteland.
Yeah, Wasteland is definitely the most important card in this matchup, because you absolutely need to break up the Locust count. We're going to see a Sensu's Divining Top probably get Spell Pierced here. Another important interaction in this matchup is the Stifles actually... There's no Expedition Map in this build, but normally these decks do play Expedition Map, and you can stifle that. You can also stifle Primeval Titan triggers. You know, normally Stifle used for fetch lands, but it does have a couple other applications. One of the big ones is to mark down that Oblivion Stone, keep the offense going for Jeff.
So you do see Jeff does elect to Spell Pierce that Sensei's Divining Top. On taps, he draws, he plays a Sylvan Library and does pass the turn back. John drew a Glimmer Post for the turn, and you see him going through his hand. Tropical Island, Oblivion Stone, you see a Brainstorm there as well, so figuring out how he wants to craft his turn right now. So I don't believe he has a Show and Tell or Primeval Titan or Eldrazi to put into play, so he's going to have to play, and this is a strange term to use, a relatively honest game right now.
Yeah, Jeff with the Sylvan Library, normally kind of a value card, use it to sift, kind of as a 5th Brainstorm, but against some of these combo decks in the format, even or control decks, your life total matters so little as the Rug Delver player that you can just use it as a straight card advantage engine, you know. Oftentimes it gets repealed here, but oftentimes you won't even bother looking at the cards. You'll just say, all right, first turn I'm taking 8, and draw them straight into your hand.
Yeah. So we see Repeal is going to get Force of Will here by Jeff. He's going to Force of Will, removing a Spell Snare and paying life. So this is one of the actual good uses of Spell Snare as well,
yeah.
as it's not really going to counter anything in Jonathan's deck except for a Repeal for 1. And the only thing he can actually target with a Repeal for 1 is a Delver of Secrets, as Insectile Aberration has a casting cost of 0.
Yeah.
So there's actually one use for Spell Snare.
Yeah, and a pretty marginal one at that. We do see the Sylvan Library trigger, and there is, or activation, I don't even know how it's worded, but there is the Wasteland.
Goofy card.
That we were talking about. Very, very clutch here, keeping Jonathan Job off of that super explosive Locust mana.
And now there's a Tarmogoyf to follow it up with. We'll get Tarmogoyf dice out there for you guys so you can figure out exactly how large it is, so we don't have to play the guessing game. But Nimble Mongoose, I believe, is getting very close to threshold right now.
Looking at 5 or 6 maybe. the clock fairly significant, and Jonathan Job's answer in the form of the Oblivion Stone. I mean, stifle. This,
No.
if you wanna leave, stifle gonna make you stay.
Stifle is going to make that Oblivion Stone go away. Stifle targets in Jonathan's deck. There aren't like a ton, as you said. There aren't really fetch lands or anything, as Jonathan is going to play that Oblivion Stone, and Jeff's probably trying to hide a grin right now, as he does have the Stifle for it. He does, you know, he has the many different ways to stifle Sensei's Divining Top, Oblivion Stone. Candelabra of Tawnos is something else that can be stifled here, along with the Primeval Titan Trigger, as you said, and some of the effects on the Eldrazi. And Jonathan has an Ulamog, a Kozilek, and an Emrakul. So Stifle isn't going to be the, you know, the hit that it is in like the Rug Mirror or anything, but it does have some uses here.
For sure.
As we're definitely going to find one in a moment.
Jeff paying some life for some cards. And bolting the Dome and using a fetch land to get up to Threshold, I believe, is what is occurring.
I'm not sure that this is going to make Tarmogoyf any larger, but it will make Nimble Mongoose bigger, get some more points of damage through, get the clock on.
Pretty unimpressive hand from Jeff here. Just the Delver that, you know, you can't really play into the Oblivion Stone, and the Stifle for the Oblivion Stone. But, you know, in this spot, you kind of want things like Force of Will and I guess Piercing Days don't really do it anymore, but things like Bolts and Brainstorms to get you to the point where you can sort of use your reach and maintain your pressure, try and finish the game off before the Cloud Posts come online, and you get to do way more powerful things than your deck is capable of.
So see Jonathan brainstorming on the end of Jeff's turn, draws a card, draws Show and Tell. You see an Oblivion Stone in play for Jonathan right now that he's probably going to consider activating as he's sliding his lands across here. Has a Vesuv in his hand, and the current Vesuv that is in play is a copy of Cloud Post.
It's a smart choice for the copy.
Good choice.
Yeah.
Makes the deck a little bit better.
Yeah.
As he's going to copy Cloud Post again, so now he's going to have 3 total Locusts in play. 3 plus a Glimmer plus a Trop is 5 mana to activate that Oblivion Stone, but it's going to be a bit of a frowny face in a moment.
Does Jonathan have anything to show and tell into play? It doesn't look like it.
No, his hand right now is Sensei's Divining Top. He has another Oblivion Stone and a Mystery card, which is a Glimmer Post. So he does have a little bit of life gain in his hand and can add to the Locust count, but this is going to get stifled here.
The upkeep activation, Stifle indeed.
And now the Sylvan Library activation is going to take place here. Brainstorm, Delver of Secrets, and Nimble Mongoose are the cards here for Jeff. And of those 3, I think Brainstorm is probably the best one.
Yeah, by a fair margin. Indeed, that is what he goes for.
Now you will see a Brainstorm get cast here.
That's an interesting choice. Oh, yep, I was going to say, I would think you would want to crack the fetch first to, you know, see 3 fresh cards rather than 2 that you don't really want, these extra creatures. And that is what we're going to see. Shuffle away those 2 bad cards and then let the Brainstorm resolve. You know, it's so natural if you play a lot of Legacy, the sequencing being Brainstorm, then fetch. Put back 2 cards you don't want, and then fetch. But if 2 cards you don't want are already on top, you need to fetch first.
Yeah. Get a clear, brand new Brainstorm. Find some new stuff. Hopefully you don't get yourself Brainstorm locked. Hopefully you can find another fetch land to clear away the rest of the Brainstorm. But at the end of the day, you want to see 3 new cards and not 2 old ones.
Yeah.
Also going to clear up that Sylvan Library a little bit too. So Jonathan's sitting at 10 life right now. Tarmogoyf getting bigger by the minute. You're going to see a Wasteland, which is a good draw, a Ponder, and a Spell Pierce. And because Jeff has not played a land yet this turn, again, when we started this turn, he had 3 lands, a Trop, a Volcanic, and that fetch land. So he can actually play this Wasteland now.
Which is pretty good. It's going to keep Jonathan Job off of the necessary mana to both play the Oblivion Stone and activate it in the same turn, which is absolutely what he needs to do in order to stabilize.
Yeah, that was most likely Jonathan's plan, and that plan is pretty much up in smoke now. As you see Jeff moving his cards around, deciding how he wants to resolve his Brainstorm. One thing that's certainly going to stay in his hand is that Wasteland, though.
Absolutely. it is coming right down and killing the Cloud Post immediately, I would have to imagine. Think about whether he wants to ponder away the cards that he's putting back. Delver is almost certainly going back. Whether he wants to ponder, likely shuffle those away, or whether he wants to keep up Pierce. Even though Jonathan has a lot of mana, you know, once you're wastelanding him, maybe you can get in a situation where something like All Is Dust or something like that can get pierced.
And you see when Jeff was going to resolve his ponder, he drew his 2 cards. And then his 3rd card was the Stifle, but he actually ended up seeing his 4th one just because the cards look to stick together a little bit. We have a spotter there. It's going to probably just make him shuffle his deck, looking at extra cards. Just a warning minor.
Yeah. Yep, standard, you know, happens a lot. Just let the judge do his thing.
With so much manipulation in Legacy between brainstorms and ponders and everything else that you can do with Sensei's Divining Top, these things do happen on occasion.
One thing that does happen far too often that is much harder to fix, in fact, impossible to fix, is accidentally resolving your ponder as brainstorm.
Yeah, I've
that
seen
happens
that one.
at least once a tournament.
Yeah.
It's, you know, all these decks play multiple copies of both, and it's just, you know, you lose focus for a second. You think you're casting, like you have a copy of both in your hand. You cast the ponder. You just think it's the brainstorm. But as soon as those cards from the top of your deck touch your hand, they can't fix the game state anymore, and you're going to get a game loss for drawing extra cards. Yeah. So something to be careful about. But looking at extra cards, you know, accidentally seeing the 4th card down, very easy fix. Just shuffle it away. A warning, so it can't be abused. And sure enough, Jeff does shuffle away those 2 that he didn't want, and I believe the 3rd card was the Stifle, which also is not that great.
Tarmogoyf creeps up to a 4/5 now that there's a sorcery in the graveyard. We do have instants, we do have lands, and we do have an artifact thanks to Oblivion Stone. Creature is the thing that is currently missing.
And Tribal. And
Planeswalker. But of the normal cards, Creature is the one that's missing.
Enchantment.
Ah, yes. Thank you, Director and AJ. I appreciate
You're
that.
welcome.
Wasteland on Glimmer Post or Cloud Post? I would want to hit Cloud Post. Ooh.
What? An interesting choice.
One that I believe Jeff is about to pay for in a big way, as Jonathan does have a Glimmer Post in his hand. He's going to gain 3 life. He's going to go up to 6.
7, 8.
And he has the exact number to play Oblivion Stone and blow it.
Wow.
And if you're Job, you have to blow this right away, so he does to dodge a Stifle. He's going to clear up everything. That Sylvan Library
gone as well?
That's got to go as well.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's gone. Yeah. Oblivion Stone kills everything.
And Jonathan Job gaining 3 life off of that Glimmer Post, going above Lightning Bolt range. That was a big misstep from Jeff there.
And Jonathan Job draws Kozilek.
That is the 10 casting cost Eldrazi, but for a cheap discount, we're going to put it into play for 3 mana off of Show and Tell.
And he's also going to play a Sensei's Divining Top, and he elects not to play the Glacial Chasm in his hand.
A Lightning Bolt here is exactly what Jeff needs.
Yep. And Jeff looks at, I believe Jeff looked at the top card of his deck
Thanks
with
to
the
Delver
Secrets and decided he didn't like that. Yeah, it was a Delver.
It's another
Secrets.
Delver. That's not going to do it.
Yeah, so Delver Secrets is the card that, you know, he would have seen.
I think a judge was like, wait, what just happened?
Yeah. You know, you get to trigger the Delver, take a look at the card, and then, you know, if it's an instant, you can flip it over, but it's an upkeep effect.
Right.
So you actually get to see the card, but you don't have to draw it. And so after resolving the Delver Secrets trigger, Jeff decides, I don't want another Delver Secrets, and he's going to draw a card here. The question is, what card can he draw to save him?
The Annihilator is 4 on Kozilek?
It is 4.
So theoretically, he can still draw, like, say, a Bolt, sacrifice all of his non-Delver permanents, and then flip the Delver and get the last 3 damage in that way.
Brainstorm into Spell Pierce, Spell Snare, and Ponder.
Well, you have to ponder, no choice. Pokeball Ponder, respect. And unless this is a Lightning Bolt, it's a fetch land, so he's got to shuffle.
And it's going to be a concession. Well, the problem here is that there's going to be an Annihilator trigger for 4. He's at 8 life. So, Kozilek being a 12/12, he'll have to block with the Delver, and then he's just going to die.
Sure.
Yeah. So he will, and at the conclusion of Jonathan's turn, Jeff will be permanentless.
Right.
So that was the issue there. That's why you see the concession, and that's why you see Jonathan Job up a game there. If Jeff
Breathing a sigh of relief.
If Jeff does destroy the Cloud Post instead of the Glimmer Post, we have a different story, but he did not, and I think he's going to realize that that is a mistake.
Instead of 8 mana, Jonathan would have 6? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6?
Yep, 6. And 6 is not enough to blow up Oblivion Stone, but either way, Jonathan Job is up a game with this 12-post deck. You have Jeff's sideboard and deck list in front of you. Outside of drawing more Wastelands, what can he do?
Sulfuric Vortex.
It's a good Magic card.
That is 1 red enchantment. Players cannot gain life, and every upkeep, both players' upkeeps, they take 2. So this is going to lock out the Glimmer Post life gain, as well as put a significant clock on Jonathan Job. Jeff taking 2 a turn, not nearly as relevant as it is for the 12-post deck. He's going to be taking out likely some, besides the spell snares, he also has a lot of these like soft counters in the form of Daze and Pierce that are pretty bad against the all mana deck. So those will probably come out for Crowsand Grip is the other big hit in Jeff's sideboard.
Well, that one's got, enough targets that I think it's worth bringing in here. If you take a look at Jonathan's deck list, Destroying Sensitive Divine Top is certainly good. Same can be said with Oblivion Stone. Candelabra of Tawnos, a card that Jeff did not actually see, but that one really takes this deck 12 post into overdrive, so that one's definitely worth killing as well. And if you look at the sideboard here, for Jonathan, he has actually 2 copies of Elephant Grass, which Crowsand Grip can snag as well. So certainly some good targets there. If you're Jonathan, cards that he has in his sideboard, he has 4 copies of Obstinate Baloth, 4 copies of Flusterstorm, 4 copies of Leyline of Sanctity, 2 copies of Elephant Grass, which will probably come in. But the most important card, and the card that Jonathan told me he actually won Game 1 with, is a copy of Tabernacle of Pendrell Vale.
That's a good land.
And the reason that he brought that in is because Rug Delver has, I believe it's 18 lands, but 6 of which actually tap for mana. Or actually 10, if you count Wasteland. So this is a deck that is very, very land light with 18 lands, has the 8 fetch lands, has the 4 Wastelands, and 3 Trops and 3 Volcanic Islands. So them being able to pay the upkeep on their creatures is actually kind of difficult, and this is a deck that gets bottlenecked on mana fairly easily anyway.
Yeah, not only paying for Tabernacle difficult, but it is near impossible for Rug Delver to have enough mana sources to pay for both the Tabernacle and the Elephant Grass.
Yeah.
Which will lock out the attacks and buy Jonathan Job plenty of time to do his thing.
And Job said that, the way that he actually ended up winning the match against the Rug Delver opponent is they did try to wasteland one of his Cloud Posts, and he just decided to cast a Crop Rotation, sacrifice that land that was being targeted by Wasteland, and got himself a Tabernacle of Pendrell Vale, and obviously the Rug opponent, had 1 less land in play because they were trying to Wasteland, and they had 3 creatures in play and only 1 mana, so lost a Tarmogoyf and a Nimble Mongoose, and the Insect Alteration was not enough to bring it home, so...
Yeah.
Tabernacle can certainly have some impact in this matchup, and, Jonathan does have a couple of Silver Bullet lands that he can crop rotate for. He has an Eye of Ugin, he has a Bajuka Bog, he has a Glacial Chasm, which you guys saw in his hand. He also has a Karakas and a Thespian Sage. So I think we'll probably see the Eye of Ugin leave, possibly the Glacial Chasm for the Tabernacle Pendrell Vale, but he's going to want to keep a Bajuka Bog in, just because it can mess with Threshold and mess up a Tarmogoyf.
Yeah. One card that I just noticed in Jeff's sideboard that is also likely coming in is Red Elemental Blast. Probably just a better version of Spell Pierce because it will always counter, and what that card is targeting, 80% of the time is Show and Tell.
Yep.
Show and Tell, putting even a Primeval Titan into play is often enough to just overpower a deck that's trying to operate in the small game. It's like small ball magic, We're only going to have 2 to 3 lands in play each, and only get to play spells that cost 1 to 3 mana. That doesn't really work when your 3 mana spells put Giant Eldrazi into play out of nowhere.
As we do see both players are going to keep their 7 cards here. Jeff is going to start with a Misty Rainforest, go down to 19, search out a Tropical Island, and we'll see if he does have a 1-drop to start with in the form of Nimble Mongoose or Delver of Secrets.
Looks like a Delver to me.
And it does look like a Delver of Secrets. So going to get the clock online right away. If you're Jeff, you're hoping to flip this on turn 1 and really just get this show started, as Jonathan has drawn a crop rotation, but you see in his hand, AJ, 2 copies of the most important card in his deck, Cloud Post.
Yes, Cloud Post. Having natural Cloud Posts is definitely a good place to be. It feels comfortable. Ooh, an interesting play here. In response to the Delver trigger, we're going to upkeep a Brainstorm to make sure that that guy flips, and we're sending for 3. Usually a play that I dislike quite a bit, but I think that there are certain matchups where you absolutely need to flip it immediately. You need to get the clock going. There's certain hands where the Brainstorm isn't actually going to be that good as the game goes on because your hand is such high quality and the game is going to be so short that it doesn't really matter, or you'll have multiple Brainstorms and you don't think you're going to have the window to play them, etc., etc. So here we see the upkeep Brainstorm and sending for 3.
So Delver of Secrets morphs into Insect Aberration, and the card that he actually drew off of those Brainstorm was a Wasteland, so Cloud Post goes bye-bye. Job does have a replacement one, but now he's under the gun and he has a full turn behind, and his life total is going to be under attack, while Jeff is able to manipulate his hand with Ponders and Brainstorms, and does have a little bit of permission there with a Stifle and a Spell Pierce.
Yeah, I mean, this is exactly the spot that Jeff wants to be in. You know, you already have 1 Cloud Post down. Jonathan luckily had a second one, but it's still like you have your threat. It's a very fast clock. You have your disruption. You have your card selection. This is what the deck is designed to do in just about every matchup.
As Jonathan does take a draw step for the turn, and he finds a rather awkward one for the turn. Part of the reason that this deck can be a little unwieldy at times is he does draw an Emrakul, the Aeon's Torn.
Well, that's a really powerful spell, Cedric. Why would you say that's not
definitely
that's
a
awkward?
Good Magic card. I can't argue its ability when it's in play.
Ooh, are those submerges?
Those are submerges.
That is an interesting choice. I mean, your opponent show and tells a Kozilek. Was it Kozilek last game?
It was Kozilek last game.
Show and tells a Kozilek last game. I could understand why you would want to submerge there. Oftentimes, even against, say, a Primeval Titan, Primeval Titan's forced to get Cloud Posts because they're under, pressure from your Wastelands. You can submerge it, get that 1 extra attack in. That's often enough. Or if you have the Sulfuric Vortex already in play and they Primeval Titan, so they can't get Glimmer Voids to gain life. You know, it is a little awkward if they are able to get Glimmer Posts and you have a Submerge, then you're losing a lot of value. But there are definitely situations where the Submerge is going to be very good.
As you do see a Tarmogoyf here from Jeff, and we'll figure out just how large that is in just a moment, as Repeal is going to take care of this Delver of Secrets. Of course, you can't repeal for 0 because Insect Aberration's casting cost when it is flipped is 0. Repeal will draw Jonathan a card, and we'll see if he is able to untap, and he is. So he'll take a draw step here. You see him hit a Show and Tell, and we're going to see a Ponder here from Mr. Job.
Well, Show and Tell is the type of card that Jeff wants the Submerges for, and he has 2 in hand, so this could have lined up this could be lining up nicely for Jeff.
As you see, Job is going to resolve a Ponder here. You see the cards are a Brainstorm, a Tropical Island, and a Candelabra of Tawnos.
Not the most exciting Ponder, but you know, it's got the resources that he needs to continue the game. Try and just do the things that his deck needs to do, you know? It's not explosive, it's not super powerful, but, I mean, you need to make your land drops, you need to, produce a bunch of mana. Why not?
So in comes Tarmogoyf for 3, and we're going to see Jeff Ponder here.
God, his hand is so blue, I love it.
Ugh. Brainstorm, Red Elemental Blast, and another Ponder. There are a lot of blue cards there.
Well, I mean, the Delver's flipping no matter what, unless, he has to crack that fetch. And the Delver is back. He can't Pierce and Blast now, but, his clock is basically doubled.
Yeah, we're on looks to be a 2-turn clock right now. I don't think there's any way to make Tarmogoyf into a 5/6 to complete this one right away. And you're going to see Job is going to cast a Show and Tell
So, unfortunately, you're gonna have to counter this, just in case it is Emrakul that you can't submerge, or Primeval Titan getting Glimmer Posts. Which thankfully for Jeff, he does have access to the counter magic he needs.
Those Glimmer Posts would end up gaining Jonathan a total of 6 life, but you see that he has searched out a volcanic island. He'll have the decision to make between Spell Piercing or Red Elemental Blasting. I think Spell Pierce is the easier decision right now.
Yep, absolutely, and the reason for that is that the Red Elemental Blast will always counter a Show and Tell, whereas the Spell Pierce can only counter it right now. If Jonathan played a couple more mana sources, then the Pierce would no longer be active, but the Red Elemental Blast doesn't care how many lands you have in play, it will always counter the Show and Tell.
So we have a reveal here of a Stifle. Delver of Secrets is going to flip over into Insectile Aberration yet again. We'll see an attack here for 6. It's going to put Jonathan down to 2. And now if you're Jonathan, you're just hoping no Lightning Bolt, which you're actually going to get. But as we will see in a moment here, he's going to probably have to cast a Desperation Show and Tell here, and it is going to be countered by a Red Elemental Blast.
And awkwardly enough, even if it resolved, it would not be enough.
Yeah. So Jeff Rasmussen has won game number 2 here off of the back of a pretty quick start, a little bit of permission, and a Wasteland. So we will have Jonathan Job on the play game 3 in the 12 post versus Rug Delver matchup. As we see, both players are not even going back to the sideboards. They look pretty content with what they're doing right now.
Yeah, which is an interesting choice because we did see Submerges kind of rotting in Jeff's hand that game. Not sure that that's the most powerful card he could be having. It's possible, you know, he knows he needs to board out his snares, probably wants to board out his dazes, and maybe he doesn't realize that Vortex is good, or doesn't think Vortex is good, rather. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not in love with Submerge. I understand the line of thought, which I think is the most important part.
Yeah.
You know, there's definitely some rationale here as to bring in Submerge, basically an interesting way to counter a Show and Tell. The question, you know, it works in theory. Does it actually work in practice? That's the thing that you need to find out.
Right. The Show and Tell, it only really works if you're Show and Telling Kozilek or Ulamog, because Emrakul can't be targeted by the Submerge, and Primeval Titan is going to get pretty strong value just coming into play that Submerge might be able to counteract, might not, depending on if there's a Vortex in play, depending on how much pressure you have, etc. But you know, I can understand its application, but I feel like it might be a little too narrow. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he has Spell Snares and Dazes, as you identified. He does want to sideboard out, or we at least believe he wants to sideboard out.
Yeah.
So, you know, you need to sideboard in something for those cards, and I think Sulfuric Vortex is a great place to start, and I don't hate Submerge as the next best card to go to, in addition to those Red Elemental Blast. But, again, you know, it's a decision. It does look a little bit wonky, and he did draw 2, and they did rot in his hand. But as we saw in that game, he certainly did not need them to win.
Absolutely, and that's the thing about Legacy is you can make sort of higher variance, you know, like higher payoff, but higher risk versus reward. Let's just use that term since I don't know how to talk today.
Sure.
Risk versus reward is a totally fine thing to do, especially with blue cards, because not only can you put them back with Brainstorm if they're no good, but pitch them to Force of Will. I mean, that's the excuse that you can use that rationale to play any kind of loose, unplayable card you want in your deck, and, you know, sideboard anything in any matchup, because, yeah, if it's bad, just put it back with Brainstorm and pitch it to a Force of Will. It's fine, Cedric.
Yeah, as long as it's blue.
It's fine, yeah.
Doesn't matter. You can get the old Fugitive Wizard out there if you want. Nobody will judge it. It's blue. Who cares? What's that morph? That morphs for like 700 mana?
Scornful Egotist.
Yeah, there he is.
Yeah. 7 in a blue for a 1/1.
Yeah.
No words except the morph.
That's right. Get him out there. It's blue, removes the Force Will, and shuffle with Brainstorm.
There you go.
This is why I hate blue cards, because you can do things like that. It looks like Job is happy. Let's see how happy Mr. Rasmussen is.
Well, it wasn't a snap keep, so it's not, you know, the double wasteland Delver draw, but
Delver Timer Life, Double Wasteland, Brainstorm.
looks like he is indeed going to 6.
I think mulliganing here, you know, this deck does its mulligans fairly well, and there's certainly some cards that he's looking for in this matchup, Wasteland being at the top of the list, so, you know, taking a mulligan or two here is not going to be the end of the world, especially when he is on the draw.
Yeah, as you said, he needs a specific sequence of cards. He needs to find things like, things like being absolute Wasteland. You know, Wasteland proper is so overwhelmingly good here that you can aggressively mulligan to it and be like pretty happy. Like, you can be on 5 cards if you have a Wasteland.
Yeah, and it can be completely reasonable.
Yeah, like a 5-card hand guaranteed Wasteland might even be better than like a 6 with guaranteed not Wasteland, you know? Just because the card has so much impact in this matchup that you definitely want to be able to find them. Yeah. If not Wastelands, then stuff to find Wastelands, Brainstorms, Ponders,
of course,
Fetches.
Necessary lands to be able to cast them. So obviously step 1 is to find a Wasteland, step 2 is to find a clock to put pressure on Jonathan so he can't just mess around spinning tops and casting Brainstorms and setting up everything. And then step 3 is just to get the opponent dead and find a little bit more permission and Force of Will and you know, stifle or perhaps even a little Spell Pierce action.
Yep, permission to make it so that you can actually finish him off. A little reach maybe with the lightning bolts and just more card selection and Stifle Oblivion Stone was just awesome game 1.
Yeah. Stifle looked really, really good game 1. We see Jeff is done shuffling, looking to keep 6. Is that a keep? Well, 6. You see a Misty Rainforest, a couple of Brainstorms, a Ponder there.
Yep, he's okay.
He's happy. Jonathan has a Glimmer Post. That is the wrong post, my friend.
Gain 1.
And Sensei's Divine Top.
Very, very good card in this deck. A lot of shuffle effects and a lot of specific cards needed. You need your Cloud Post. You need your Cloud Post, you know, copiers or enablers. Then you need your big spell, whether that's the Oblivion Stone, the Primeval Titan, or the Show and Tell. And then you need the win condition, the Eldrazi or the Titan.
So you're saying you need a lot of things and Top can help find them all?
Yes. And in combination with shuffle effects, you see.
Oh, wow.
Cedric, let me explain. Jonathan Job, looking at his top 3, say he doesn't like them. Maybe he only likes one of them. You draw that one, play a shuffle effect, shuffle them away, top again, brand new cards. Yeah.
Well, I see 3 cards that aren't Cloud Post right now, so I bet he wants to shuffle this away. As he draws. I'm not actually couldn't catch what he drew there.
Full blue card.
I see a Vesuva. It's going to copy a
Volcanic
Island. He needs blue mana. And Jeff is going to check for blackjack with Delver of Secrets, and he's going to ensure that 21 is coming.
He's going to rig the deck.
Yeah.
With another upkeep to Brainstorm.
So Brainstorm draws me a Lightning Bolt, a Volcanic Island, and a second Delver of Secrets here. So this Delver of Secrets will be flipping an Insectile Aberration unless there's a horrible blunder here by Jeff.
I've definitely done that on Moto before. Just like click your cards in the wrong order to put them back. And then you're like, all right, and you reveal the basic that you wanted to shuffle away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would just concede.
Just shame concede?
Yeah. I don't want anyone
I wouldn't even concede, I just disconnect, just X out.
Yeah, I don't want anyone to know that I did this. His Lightning Bolt is the card revealed here. Jonathan now can virtually put himself down a 3 less life. Instead of trying to dodge or fade a Lightning Bolt in stages of the game, he can just know that his opponent already has 1. And so I'm already at 3 less than I'd like to be. You see Jeff is going to search out a tropical island here.
I think he has a follow-up Delver, which is a pretty strong start. You know, it's a relatively fast clock starting on the draw for Jeff, and with Jonathan Job's board being just 2 Glimmer Posts, obviously he doesn't have a Cloud Post or it would be in play. Yeah. So you got to be pretty happy with fast clock and opposing slow draw.
You know, even if Jeff were to find a Wasteland right now, the targets aren't even that juicy
yeah.
yet. As you are going to see Insectile Aberration come across, going to knock Jonathan down to 18, and you're going to see...
It is a Ponder.
A Ponder. I'm a little bit surprised by this one instead of the Delver.
Yeah, I agree. Also, I just said that he has 2 Glimmer Posts, but he did copy Volcanic Island, which means that he's going to be, using his own brainstorms and whatnot to try and find that Cloud Post. Speaking of key cards, while Jonathan Job's looking for Cloud Post, Jeff Rasmussen found what he was looking for in the form of a Wasteland.
So Brainstorm does resolve, he puts 2 cards back, and as you said, he did find a Wasteland here. So Job is going to cast a Repeal on the upkeep. Going to draw a card here. He's going to spin the top on the upkeep as well. Influence his draw step. You see him find a Show and Tell, Primeval Titan, and a Candelabra of Tawnos.
No land.
I think the big problem here, AJ, is that he might not have a 3rd land to play.
And even if he does, it is certainly not a Cloud Post.
Oh, well, he does have a 3rd land to play.
But it's not the type of land that you want to play in this spot.
It's a Glacial Chasm.
One of the few lands in Magic history that doesn't actually produce mana.
Yes. So he certainly does have a land to play, and that's a beautiful version of a Glacial Chasm. That's not the one that John has, and it's ugly.
Is that from the Vault lands?
I believe that is the case.
From the Vault Realms, I believe is what it's called.
As you guys do see, Community of Upkeep, pay 2 life when it comes into play. You have to sacrifice a land. You can't attack, but prevent all damage that is dealt to you. It's a very unique land, very old school. Most of the time you find this in the all lands deck that is deemed 43. But
yeah, the one from the Loam-based land deck.
We haven't seen that deck for a little while now. Thanks, Deathrite Shaman.
Yeah, it's been a little outdated. The time has passed it by.
It's my favorite deck in Legacy.
You're a freak.
Why? That's so much fun. So many lands.
So many lands.
You get to play so many lands, draw so many cards, and then play so many more lands. It's great. And Deathrite Shaman doesn't let us do any of that anymore.
Deathrite Shaman oppressing the lands people.
There's not many of us, but we stick together and we can't play our deck anymore.
Yeah. I'm afraid you don't have much support.
Yeah, I know there's somebody at home who likes lands as much as I do. So we're going to see Jeff cast a Delver of Secrets yet again. Going to play Wasteland, take care of that Glimmer Post, and I don't love that play.
Would you want to tag the blue there?
I either want to tag the blue or just not use it at all. Because I understand that you're cutting you're cutting his lands down a little bit, but at the same time the only land that he's going to play that actually matters is Cloud Post.
Yeah, which comes into play tapped, so it's not like he even gets 1 activation out of it. And then you get to untap and waste it. I could definitely see that being correct.
Brainstorm is going to give us a Candelabra of Tawnos, a Repeal, and
just digging 1 deeper into
a 2nd land that does not tap for mana.
I promise you, there are not many in Magic history.
There really aren't. There really are not.
that do this. But Jonathan Job does have 3 of them in his deck, and has now drawn 2 of them.
The 3rd one in his deck that does not tap for mana, of course, is Eye of Ugin. And he has that in his deck as well. And now here's a Tabernacle, and we have seen some things in the past.
I was about to say, the best part of Tabernacle is its default action. The ruling, if your opponent misses the trigger, forgets to pay in the upkeep, is you have chosen to do the default action. The default action of Tabernacle being sacrifice your creature. So, you could be in a pretty unwinnable position, play Tabernacle, and accidentally your opponent just wraps themselves by simply going too quickly and drawing his card.
Patrick Sullivan deems it the shooter in the tower.
Yeah, the shooter in the tower is very good.
Yeah, that's what he calls that. As we're going to see a 2nd Delver of Secrets added to the board here. Jonathan, of course, doesn't have to pay.
I've also heard him refer to it as passing the Tabernacle test.
Yes, that's correct. And Jonathan is going to pass the turn here. We're going to check for Delvers.
Active player, non-active player. You got to pay before you look.
You do have to pay before you look.
Actually, no. I believe the abilities go directly onto the Delvers, so he does get the stack then. It's been a while since I played against Tabernacle, but I believe it gives the text to the creatures.
And you see that Jeff kind of going,
Yeah, I'm not sure which way this works, and this happens a lot in Legacy. Oracle rulings are fairly common, because a lot of the really, really old cards don't actually do what they say they do. They've been errated and oracled so many times that you really need the modern wording. I mean, just the rules changes. I mean, the like 6th edition rules change or what have you. Wow.
And they're gone.
And he has not passed the tabernacle test today. The shooter in the tower.
Takes 2 more victims.
Yes.
For the shooter in the tower.
And has to kind of, I don't want to say waste a wasteland because that's a bad joke, but also because, you know, it is valuable to not have to lock down your mana every turn, but he does have to use a wasteland on a tabernacle.
In that situation, you know, as confusing as a Tabernacle Pentreville may be, that's a situation where if you're unsure of something, that's what the judges of the tournaments are for.
Yeah.
That's where you just raise your hand, you call a judge and say, I need a little bit of clarification here, because I'm not quite sure how this works, instead of trying to just assume you know how something works, and then your creatures are dead.
I promise the judge won't laugh at you.
Yeah,
I promise.
That's not what will happen.
It happens. This happens all the time in Legacy. Just last tournament, oh no. Okay, good. It's wasted. Scared me for a second that he just snapped Drew's card. So, Glimmer Post, Vesuva copying Volcanic Islands, a Submerge for Jeff. Kind of an awkward draw, but not as important as what's in play, or rather, what's not in play for Jonathan Job. The big mana, land-oriented deck with 2 lands that are just pretty bad and not special in any way.
And you see Jeff deciding between Sylvan Library and Tarmogoyf, and I think Tarmogoyf is the easy choice here. You just want to get your opponent dead. He's having a lot of trouble with his mana, and I think he just wants to try to get Jonathan dead as fast as he can. As you see Jonathan activating top here, he does not find any lands.
Finds a ponder, so he can shuffle, kind of redraw, look at 3 more with the top. It's if you're not going to hit a lands, then that's at least what you want.
So here is a ponder. 1 Candelabra, 2 Primeval
Titan. 1
Titan.
fresh card, it's another Candelabra.
Yeah. Can't shuffle fast enough.
And not only do you get the fresh card off the top, but your top gets to see 3 new ones as well. Very likely that Jonathan Job's gonna be crawling out of his mana problems, but the question is it too little, too late? Facing down 2 quite large Tarmogoyfs. He knows about the Lightning Bolt in Jeff's hand. This is quite a clock. He's just drawing Eye.
Jonathan drew the 3rd land in his deck that does not tap for mana in Eye of Ugin.
Some might say that that's sort of poetic justice. Others may say it's just unfortunate.
Depends on who you are.
Yeah.
When we see a Sensei's Divining Top activation, Glimmer Post, Tropical Island.
Oh, they're all my lands.
Found them. Found them, finally.
We see Crowsand Grip in Jeff's hand, so he did indeed bring those in, which I had to assume he was. They tag Sensei's Divining Top. You know, had Jeff had the 3rd lands, been able to blow up that top, then Jonathan wouldn't have been able to do all this searching for lands. You know, he would have had those 2 dead draws on top instead of finding that ponder. He wouldn't be able to find lands and draw into one of them to play it this turn. Yeah, that would have been really good, but he didn't draw the 3rd land. Crowsand Grip stuck in his hand, and Jonathan able to give it the old college try.
Jonathan's going to put some lands back, and he's going to play a Glacial Chasm. I'm a little bit surprised here by that. Instead of drawing a card and just playing instead of just drawing a card with the top to play another land, he's electing to play the Chasm, which doesn't actually help him develop any. So I'm a little bit surprised by that.
Yep. Thankfully, his top was 3 lands, which gets him to the point where he is able to play, say, a Show and Tell or whatever he may have. Yeah, I mean, 8 damage a turn is a lot. I'd much rather take 2 and then 4 and then 6 than 8, 8, 8.
Fair?
Yeah.
Sylvan Library is going to join the party here. Jonathan's going to untap. He's going to pay the 2 life. He's going to go down to 12. Does remember his Glacial Chasm trigger, as that is an upkeep trigger that you do have to forget. You do have to remember.
Yes. Another default action. Oh, you forgot to pay? Well, you chose to sacrifice.
That's right. Here's Cloud Post. Now remember that Vesuva that's in play is a volcanic island of Jeff's, and you're going to see Sylvan Library here.
Couple dudes, and is that another Submerge?
That is another submerge.
Awkward.
A little bit. There are no forests in play right now for Jonathan. As Jeff draws a card, he draws a second submerge to go along with Frozen Grip and a Stifle and a Lightning Bolt. And he does just pass the turn back. See if Jonathan's going to spin this top in a turn. He is. Glimmer Post Tropical Island and another Tropical Island. So lands
More
are
lands.
Lands aren't a problem anymore. Some could say he's actually drawn plenty of lands.
Yeah. Sadly, they're not the lands he wants. Not Vesuvas or more Cloud Posts. Glimmer Post, okay, and it will get him to show and tell this turn, if that is what he chooses to do.
Yeah, he can't pull the trigger right now on the show and tell and try to go for it. He is going to run himself into. Has the ability to run himself into a Spell Pierce right now.
Right.
So it'll be interesting if he decides that, yeah, I just have to go for this.
If he waits 2 turns, he knows he's going to have 2 more lands. He can play around Pierce, but that's 2 more draw steps for Jeff. His Chasm is kind of clocking him. He might feel that he has to go for it here. I'm not even sure what he can put into play. He's got a grip full of cards as he's been missing land drops all game. And looks like some mana's being tapped.
He looks like he's moving in. Ba-da-ba-da.
With the Cloud Post and the Glimmer Post, he would actually only need 1 more turn to play around Pierce.
He could wait, or he could identify and just go for it here. And he is going to go for it.
And it is going to resolve, and Jeff's not going to play anything. And it is a Primeval Titan. Stifle the trigger, potentially?
Jonathan's waiting.
Legacy open players, that is time in the round. Active player, finish your turn.
Stifle the trigger, submerge the Primeval Titan. Whoa, you can't
Submerge can't happen, yeah. Submerge can't happen right now.
Not happen.
Because there are no forests in play. That Vesuva is a volcanic island.
Word indeed. That would have been a good sequence.
Yeah, that's normally a good play. And you see Jeff is really thinking about if he wants to stifle this. And I think this is something that's worth stifling because Primeval Titan can't attack because of the chasm.
Right. No, yeah. It won't be able to trigger again as long as the chasm is in play. Once the chasm leaves play, even if it attacked, what are you going to do? Get 2 Glimmer Posts, gain 8. It's only 1 turn from the Goyfs. The Goyfs double block the Primeval Titan. It's like not even that great of a spot, you know?
It's really not that great of a spot. I mean, one of the things that he can do, he can search for 2 Cloud Posts, but again, that's not that good of a spot either because he actually needs to search for ways to gain life if he's going to attack because he's sitting at 10. See, Jeff is going to resolve the Sylvan Library. He's going to draw a card, draws Volcanic Island, and does just pass the turn back. So double Submerge, Frozen Grip, and Lightning Bolt.
The somewhat awkward grip from Jeff.
And Jonathan is going to activate Sensei's Divine Top. Trop, Cloud Post are the cards.
Ooh, he's going to play a Trop.
Looks like he's going to play a Trop. He's going to take 6 from the chasm.
Well, not sacrificing chasm means he isn't planning on attacking with Titan this turn anyway. So what is it? Oblivion Stone? Is that Jonathan's plan here? Oh, nope.
I don't think so. Glacial Chasm's got a lot of text. We've seen this before many moons ago.
I believe Owen Turnwald's Colosso Fuentes matchup like 2 years ago.
Yeah, we had that. It
happened like 5 times.
Yeah, we had a Tom Ross finale.
Ooh, that was a big deal.
As well as you're going to see the Tropical Island finally hit play here.
And Jeff has to be pumping the fist at that, turning on the Submerges in his hand for that Primeval Titan. What is Jonathan Job's plan here? Oblivion Stone? Not even?
Well, he does have 2 copies of Repeal in his hand. Frozen Grip's going to take care of the Sensei's Divine Top right now.
Yep. Why not use those 3 mana, instead of going back to your turn?
Delver of Secrets, Simul Mongoose, and Stifle are the cards here. And Jeff is going to draw. And he's going to show every one of us at home
his Stifle. And the chasm can no longer be sustained.
So
let's see how this goes.
Job is going to draw a Tropical Island.
Untap. Chasm, I can't pay for you.
With Stifle for the trigger, and there won't even be a trigger because of Submerge.
Yep.
Stifle, or it's Submerge the Primeval Titan, and then Stifle for the trigger of the other Primeval Titan that Jonathan Job is about to cast.
And puts it up top.
You know, you have to ask yourself whether this game would have already been over had those Submerges been something else. But now that we're at this point and the Submerges are there, they're actually pretty good.
Yeah, they're not bad at all. So you see Job is reaching here, deciding if he wants to cast Repeal or if he wants to cast Primeval Titan.
I feel like you have to Titan here.
I think you just have to play your better card.
Sadly, it does play directly into Stifle.
It plays into Stifle, and then it will get submerged, and it will be over. Submerge that, and that will be a wrap. Jeff Rasmussen does win with Rug Delver. As you can, Job is probably a little bit surprised. Yeah, you see Job is doing, what else did you have in your hand? And he could have repealed that Tarmogoyf, could have bought himself a little bit more time. Not sure if it would have been the difference or not, but yes, Jeff did have an active Sylvan Library. But either way, Jeff Rasmussen does win 2-1 with Rug Delver over Jonathan Job and the 12 post stack. A matchup that I feel is pretty favorable for Rug Delver, in all honesty.
Yeah.